Cute phone, Apple. Does it fold? The Z Fold5 is really hard to compare to normal slab smartphones because ultimately it's much more than just a phone. The iPhone 15 Pro Max is the best technology that Apple has to offer. Boy, do they charge you for it. Today I'm setting out to show you that the Z Fold5 has better value for your money than the iPhone 15 Pro Max. Let's go. I was browsing through Twitter the other day, as I tend to do, and I saw someone posted that the 512GB iPhone 15 Pro Max costs the same, roughly, in Australia at the moment, as the 512GB Z Fold5. At the moment, the Z Fold5 has a special going on. You can get the 512 for the price of the 256. Now, I know that's not going to be the same in every single market, because ultimately, if you're going to be shelling out that sort of money at all, then spending that little bit extra for the Fold5 isn't really out of the question. Allow me to show you some things that make the Fold5 a better value proposition than the iPhone 15 Pro Max. I'm going to start off with a slightly controversial one, the cameras. Now, don't click away. I'm not crazy. I don't mean from an output sense. What I mean by this is the actual way you can use these cameras and the flexibility, no pun intended, that these cameras give you over the iPhone 15 Pro Max. Actually, that was a pun. That was intended. To be fair though, last week I did prove that the output isn't too far away from Samsung's own S23 Ultra, so it can hold its own in that regard as well. But let's look at the ways that this can make and change the way you actually capture your world around you. First is flex mode. Flex mode is obviously one way that the Z Fold5 takes advantage of its foldable form factor, because you can pop this thing down anywhere, and I mean anywhere, as long as it's got a flat surface, and you can get different types of shots and have hands-free convenient shooting. Whether that be sitting down at a restaurant with your family, whether that be out and about at nighttime, for example, taking nighttime photos, you've got the power of a tripod that folds away in your pocket without needing that extra accessory. You've also got the much bigger inner display for your preview and framing of your photo. What's great here too is Samsung gives you software to take advantage, not just to give a big canvas to look at things, but also to split the screen up into different ways to take advantage of that. You got capture view mode, which when you turn this on, it has the left-hand side for reviewing your photo. You can interact by pinching to zoom in. You can hold and delete stuff. Or on the right-hand side, you've got the preview, which is basically a standard camera operation, change all the modes, etc., etc. It just truly takes advantage of what the form factor is. And because you have 3 quality rear cameras, you can use these with the cover display for your rear cam selfies. A couple ways to activate it, but basically the output level is just going to be higher thanks to the higher quality rear cam selfies. Not to mention that some of these features that are on existing smartphones get better with the Fold5 thanks to its form factor. Features like auto framing, where when you take advantage of flex mode, you put auto framing on and you can have basically a videographer sitting there doing the job for you without actually needing someone manning the camera. It's great, and it's really great for kids too, because you pop the phone down and let it do the work while you're enjoying the moment with your children. And expert RAW photography. With astrophotography in particular, again, you don't need that tripod to come along with you. You just pop the phone down and let it do the job for you. Next up, productivity. Lots of people buy these things for work and getting stuff done. And for all the power of the processor of the iPhone 15 Pro Max and the A17 Pro, Apple just doesn't do enough to allow you to take advantage of all that power in a productivity sense. Let's look at some of the ways the Fold5 offers you value from productivity. You've got features like the taskbar, which when you have the display open, you have a dock down the bottom of your apps that you set yourself and recent apps that you can also jump back into as you need them. From the taskbar too, you have the option to launch into a multi-window environment. And again, with the Fold5, you've got 3 app multitasking to take advantage of. So simple to activate. You just have to drag and drop files into place and organize it in the way that you want and it's most comfortable for you. And you can drag and interact with those 3 app multi-windows as well. So it's not just you can see them, they all can interoperate with each other. And from there too, you can have a floating window. So there's really a lot of apps that you can have open, and it does make the experience a lot more productive because you can do more than one thing at the same time. What I really like too is the app continuity. Now we know that there's two screens on this thing. So from the cover display, you can be browsing something that you might want to look at, whether it be a news article, whether it be a website. And when you finally find the thing you want to do, you have the option to just open it up and continue it on the larger screen. What's also great is there's toggles and settings you can turn on that when you close it, it can transition back to the cover screen. So you can go back to a one-handed usage. Really great if you're on the move and on the go. You don't have to think about, oh, I might just put this away, because you can still use it one-handed. Samsung DeX. This can turn into your computer. And I said this in the S23 Ultra video, but for the Fold 5, it just makes even more sense. Because this is a tablet that you can take with you, you can keep everything on here, and you can do your entire job and workflow straight from this device. And Samsung DeX unlocks even bigger potential when you can plug this into a monitor or TV and you have all this available to you. And the last point with productivity is an optional accessory, but S Pen support. You can buy S Pens to support the inner display, made by Samsung of course, and you get all of the same functionality and features the S Pen gives you: screen off memo, interacting with Samsung Notes, and there's even creativity stuff. So there's a lot that you can do here from a productivity sense, and no phone on the market matches it right now, globally. A really big point is entertainment. Who doesn't love to be entertained? We all like killing time, whether it be on YouTube, social media, or spending hours looking for our next Netflix show to binge on. In the global smartphone market, the Fold 5 has an unrivaled entertainment offering. And I don't care what anyone says about the 15 Pro Max and its display, it simply cannot hold up to what this gives you from a value perspective. I mentioned before with productivity, app continuity. One thing that I really love is the continuity from cover screen to inner display, particularly for apps like YouTube. I could be browsing YouTube on the cover screen, find the video I want, select it, and then open it up into the inner display, and I get the full immersive 7.6-inch display to take advantage of. But what's great here with this display is I'm not necessarily bound to having to launch it into full screen. Having YouTube open just in the portrait orientation with the video at the top and interaction down the bottom is perfect enough as it is. You've got a really nice large top half of the screen to take advantage of, and the bottom half you can sort of keep browsing comments, interact with other videos, whatever it is. You've got that option down there with that entertainment. But of course you can rotate it into landscape and you make it go technically full screen. There is black bars top and bottom, but it is still a bigger full screen experience than any other smartphone is going to give you right now. Part of the entertainment offering too is the stereo speaker output. So because this is a phone that doesn't necessarily need to rely on the top housing as a speaker, it can be balanced. So both speakers can output balanced stereo sound and have it sound equal and loud and rich. Listen for yourself. And the last point, I already mentioned it in cameras, but it's flex mode. Flex mode turns this into your portable stand as well as a tripod. So before I showed it for camera, you can simply just pop the phone down in its half flex state, and the UI will optimize itself based on the app that you're using. So apps like YouTube and Netflix, Disney Plus, and a host of others have now optimized themselves so when you do flex it in half, it puts the video into that top half of the display and interaction down the bottom. YouTube's a great example of this. They've even optimized it further this year by adding in controls. So you can skip through 10 seconds, you have the scroll bar down the bottom. It's great, and it really does add to that entertainment experience because you can watch things hands-free while you're getting other stuff done as well. Point number 4 is battery. I'm not a lunatic, just hear me out here when it comes to battery. I don't mean the longevity of the battery, although some really early battery tests have the iPhone 15 Pro Max pretty much on par with the 14, and some efficiency testing is showcasing that it's not actually quite as efficient as the 8 Gen 2 for Galaxy is going to be. We'll wait till real-time usage starts to sort of come out. Very early on, but that's not what I'm talking about, because obviously the battery here is 4,400 milliamp hours and it's got to power a much bigger inner display. What I mean is the overall battery picture. The first two, the charging, less so, particularly when you consider that it's still 25 watt wired and 15 watt wireless. I mean more the fact that It charges at those speeds, it's got a large capacity battery, it's got an efficient processor, and you also have features like PowerShare, where you can use the back of your Fold 5 to charge your ecosystem. It is absolutely, I don't believe, intended to PowerShare another phone. Whilst it has come in handy in some situations to help other people out, it's definitely way better to charge things like my watch and my buds. Much prefer for that. That's what I mean by battery, is the picture that it creates, the overall overarching feel of battery. The fact it does last you enough, the fact it does charge relatively fast enough. I'd love it to be more, but we can't force them to do something that they're maybe not ready for yet. And the fact that it charges wirelessly and can give power. That whole picture, I think, makes the battery a pretty compelling value reason for the Fold 5. Feel free to disagree with me. I don't mind. Chuck down in the comments what you think. And there's one more crucial point when it comes to value with the Fold 5 over the iPhone 15 Pro Max, is that it replaces two devices. This is a phone and a tablet in one. Let's look at the iPhone plus an iPad. To be reasonable, let's go the iPad mini. In Australia, an iPhone 15 Pro Max, 256GB version, $2,199. Okay. iPad mini, there's a 64GB base option. No one should get that, and I think Apple know that. So they've got the higher storage variant, over $1,000 in Australia. So for two devices that you have to carry around all the time, looking between $3,000 and $3,500, depending on the storage variants of the phone that you want. Fold 5, you need one. Everything can be done from here. You don't need to be carrying around multiple devices and then decide which one you're going to do what on. Everything can be done through here. It's basically a tablet and a phone in one device that folds away into your pocket. You have the phone when it's closed. And whilst it's not the ideal, perfect smartphone experience, it's intentional to not be full smartphone, because it doesn't need to do the job of the full phone when it has the full tablet on the inside. And that's really what a lot of people tend to do anyway with their phone. If something's too small for their phone, as Apple users consistently try and tell me, the front screen's too small for multitasking. Perfect. Guess what isn't too small for multitasking? The inner display of the Fold 5. Look, you may not agree with everything that's on this list, and that's fine. My opinion is that for value for money, if you are out seeking a new smartphone and you're looking at the 15 Pro Max, you'd be silly not to look at the Galaxy Z Fold 5. A lot of phone and tablet that you can purchase here, and it's well worth your consideration. If you like this video, I've got plenty more like it. Sub to the channel, please, and check out everything else that I've got going on. Also on social media, so come hang out with me on Twitter/X and also on Instagram, and I'll see you next time. You!